You're good to go.
Yes, we could start.
So I'd give it a few more minutes just because we did have some technical issues. So I know a lot of people are coming in right now.
Okay, so we'll give it a minute.
Okay, perfect. And if everyone can just go on mute, that would be great. We, of course, love to hear from you, but maybe not just right now. Okay, so we have about 30 people in right now. So if you guys want to get started, you can go ahead, and then I'll continue to let people in as they join.
Perfect. So we will kick it off right now. All right. Good morning and good afternoon to everyone on the webinar. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. We had some hiccups starting, but we're good to go now. My name is Ego Chidolwe. I am the Business Development Manager for Microsoft Azure practice here at CDW. In today's webinar, we will showcase how your business can leverage the Azure Virtual Desktop to achieve business efficiency. As the workplace today has become largely virtual and remote, the Azure Virtual Desktop is helping businesses to continue to be efficient and agile. In today's webinar, we will share insights on the differences between AVD, formerly called Windows Virtual Desktop, Windows 365, and other VDI technologies. We are happy to let you know that CDW, our aim is to continuously provide value to your customers by simplifying the complexities of technology across your entire selection process, integration, management of your technology, and the entire lifecycle. Rest assured, our overall goal is to help you achieve your business outcomes by delivering critical solutions to your multifaceted IT needs. CDW Canada is a wholly owned subsidiary of the CDW Corporation with headquarters in Toronto, Ontario. We have local representation nationwide through account managers, field account executives, field solution architects, and state-of-the-art office facilities. It is important to note that CDW Canada has consistently been listed on the Computer Dealers News Top 100 Solution Providers list and named the #1 solution provider in Canada. We hold numerous certifications from leading manufacturer partners with over 2,000 technical certifications under our belt. And our vendor-neutral approach to products and services enables us to best address your specific IT requirements, be it a cloud deployment, an on-premises deployment, or a hybrid cloud requirement. Here is the team bringing the webinar to you today. Again, I'm Ego Chidolwe, and I work as the Business Development Manager for Azure. Jasdeep Singh is the Field Solutions Architect focused on Microsoft workloads, and John Atto is at the forefront of driving the adoption and long-term usage of Microsoft Azure as the Customer Success Manager for our client base. I will now hand over to Jasdeep to take this forward.
You're on mute.
Yeah. Oh, it's a technical issue day. No, thanks, Ego. Thanks for that introduction. I'm very happy to be here presenting this very interesting solution from Microsoft Cloud. So I'll kickstart things with the agenda for the day for the webinar today. I will start the session today with a Forrester study on Azure Virtual Desktop, followed by a high-level introduction to the solution. We will talk about some of the recent announcements around AVD, or Azure Virtual Desktop, as it is newly called. I will walk you through a bunch of demos as well around deployment, management, and optimization of an AVD environment. We will discuss about Citrix and VMware Horizon integration with AVD. I will also introduce you to the newest SaaS offering for VDI, which is called Windows 365 Cloud PCs. Lastly, I will go over how each of these VDI options within Azure Realm are positioned to solve unique business requirements. So let's quickly dive in and talk about the Forrester study. So here, Forrester studied economic impact of using Azure Virtual Desktop compared to a Microsoft RDS on-premises environment. We will share a link to this to the detailed study, but I do wish to highlight some of the key statistics that came out of the study. The study observed about 210% return on investment and a net present value of over 1.89 million US dollars when compared to the on-premises RDS environment cost. The key findings were that the VDI licensing cost was reduced by over 34%. IT deployment and maintenance cost actually went down by 59%, and productivity increased by 22 person hours per Azure Virtual Desktop. And that was just because of improved connectivity, onboarding, and security response. And of course, there were unquantified benefits of overall, improved user experience, scalability, and organizational resiliency uh, that comes with a cloud offering. So this study very clearly highlights the economic potential of Azure Virtual Desktop. Let's quickly understand this solution on a high level. Uh, so Azure Virtual Desktop essentially is you can consider it as a PaaS VDI offering from Microsoft. It's a desktop and app virtualization service, and it does support multiple platforms. It works across Windows, PC, Mac, PC, Mac, iOS, Android, Linux, you name it. There's an app for it, and you get all the enhanced security that comes with Azure AD, since Azure AD is the gatekeeper, is the entry point, is the identity solution used for logs into the platform. I will demonstrate that as well. So you can use conditional access and MFA, all the security that you have put in place on your Azure AD. That same security applies to AVD. The management is fairly simplified. Again, in the demonstrations, you will see how easy it is to manage an AVD environment. It gives you an option of pool desktop or personal desktops. Pool desktops are, when you're sharing multiple user sessions on the same underlying OS, through whether it is through Windows 10 or Windows 11 multi sessions, or it is a Windows Server OS that you're using and using multiple user sessions on the same underlying VM. Or you can also allocate personal desktops for each user, and which is mostly useful with desktops that need GPUs. We'll talk about that. The entire platform is built on zero trust principles, security principles. So it is highly secure. Again, we'll touch on that, some of the security aspects as well. But if you look at Azure Virtual Desktop as a solution, all you need to worry about is your image, your desktop image. You want to manage applications you want to install on that image. The profile management, all of that is in your control and you to manage. The user density, how many users share the same virtual machine. VM sizing, what kind of virtual machine you want to use, what SKU within Azure VMs you want to use, scaling policies, how do you want to scale out, how do you want to scale in, a lot of flexibility, a lot of, again, optimization options there. We'll talk about that. User management and identity, of course, Azure AD is the identity platform that AVD uses. So which users get access to what kind of desktops, all of that stuff. You control network policies. You still have access to the virtual network within Azure, so you manage that. You have control over that. What you don't need to worry about is essentially, if you look at on the right side of this, uh, the RDS infrastructure, the broker service, the management, the gateway, diagnostics, load balancing, all of that is now abstracted from you. All of that is being managed internally by Microsoft. Uh, So the entire complexity of the RDS infrastructure is now infrastructure virtual machines in an on-premise environment is essentially now being managed by Microsoft. And of course, the physical hardware, the compute, the storage, the physical networking, all of that is in control of Microsoft. Is managing it like because it's public cloud, right? So now let's discuss about a typical AVD deployment, and I think it can be best represented by the reference architecture. So there are the key components to note in a hybrid cloud environment when you deploy AVD is, first of all, you need to have an Azure AD Connect so that you're syncing all your identities within your Active Directory domain services on-premises domain controllers to Azure AD. So the same user single sign-on can be established. And the second important prerequisite to an AVD environment is connectivity to your private network. So your Azure Virtual Network, this is your Azure Virtual Network, Azure side of the things, should be connected to your on-premises private network, whether it is through ExpressRoute or site-to-site VPN. This allows your session hosts, your VDI VMs, these to talk to your on-premises domain controller so that they can all domain join as you would have your physical desktops or laptops on your private network, and also allows you to allow your users to access your private the application that are published within the private network, so they're in the same private network. The third prerequisite is the an SMB storage for allowing user profiles to be stored. AVD uses something called FS Logics, which is a technology that containerizes user profiles into .vht files. And whenever a user is logging in, and he could be logging into any of these multiple session hosts, and the user profiles gets mounted on that VM, and then the user gets access to the VM. So in terms of best practices, if you have more than 200 users, Microsoft recommends you to have premium file storage, whether it's Azure premium files or premium NetApp files. Both are supported. Both are supported for the FSLogix user profiles. And last thing that I want to highlight within this reference architecture is the Azure Virtual Desktop Control Plane. Again, this is all the RDS infrastructure machines. So all of this is again managed by Microsoft. You don't need to worry about it. Web access, gateway, broker, diagnostics, all the APIs that are all there. This is all Microsoft control. You don't have to worry about it, and you will see how easy it gets in terms of administration when we'll see in the next section. Now, let's see some of the recent cool announcements around this platform, Azure Virtual Desktop. In the last Ignite, just a week ago, Microsoft announced that AVD is coming to Azure Stack HCI. If you're not familiar with Azure Stack HCI, it's a on-premises private cloud solution from Microsoft. So it's like you get physical HCI hardware for your on-premises data centers, and it runs Azure software on top of it, and you can manage the whole on-premises environment through your Azure portal, like you manage your public cloud deployments. So that is coming to Azure Virtual Desktop. It is in preview right now. Soon it'll come for public preview. Right now it's in private preview. Windows 11 is now supported since October last month. Windows 11 is very well supported within Azure Virtual Desktop. RDP shortpath is also now available. Again, RDP shortpath is a again very interesting feature that allows RDS sessions to be established through the shortest possible path. So if I go back and show you, if a user is logging in from the office, instead of using internet to connect to session host with RDP shortpath, the user gets in terms of TCP connection, he connects through the ExpressRoute or the site-to-site VPN. So whichever is the shortest path, and that improves the user experience overall. Again, another interesting feature which came out in public preview in August was multimedia redirection. Multimedia redirection, or MMR for AVD, is again an interesting feature that allows smooth video playback on AVD browsers, and it works both for Microsoft Edge and Google Chrome. What it does is that it uses the underlying local machine for rendering the video. So the overall experience is very smooth. You don't feel like you're running, traditionally the video would be rendered on the VM in the cloud, and that would produce some lag, and there would be jitter there. So that is eliminated with this feature. It is in public preview, soon it would be in GA. Then signing in, if you're using smart cards in the organization, now Azure Virtual Desktop supports smart card login as well. And then there's a screen capture protection feature as well, wherein if you want to prevent any sensitive information from being captured by the software running on the client endpoints, you can enable this protection, and the local machine would not be able to take any screenshots of a print screen. Nothing's going to work. So that is also available for if you want to secure your data in that way. So next, with this, I do want to highlight the licensing requirements for Azure Virtual Desktop. So let's quickly talk about the licensing stuff. If you are an existing M365 customer, essentially you don't need any licensing. You don't have any licensing cost for Azure Virtual Desktop. So if you're using Windows 10, multi-session, or you're using Windows 11 multi-session, and you have M365 E3, E5 licenses, all you pay for is just the the standard compute, storage, and network egress that you would otherwise pay for any other deployment. So the VMs that you're deploying, all that RDS infrastructure, that you don't need to pay anything for that. It's essentially free. If you're using Windows Server for your session host, then in that case, whether it's 2016, 2019, you do need to have the RDS CAL licenses with SA, software assurance, because that is the server RDS CAL licensing requirement that is there. But if you're using Windows 10 or Windows 11, you don't need that. E3, E5 Business Premium covers that cost in terms of licensing. So now that we understand AVD on a high level, let's discuss about the cost optimization options that are available within Azure Virtual Desktop. Since this is platform as a service, you have control, you have ways to save some of the cost in your Azure bills. So first of all, first method is just switch off your virtual machines that when they're not in use. Like any other IaaS VM within Azure, if you pay by an hour, so if you shut them down, you stop paying the compute cost, you stop paying the licensing cost if you're using pay as you go. So that's the best way. In Azure Virtual Desktop, it allows you to I'll talk about that, how you can auto scale if there's more load. When there's no load, you can auto shut down VMs. And also when users connect, Azure Virtual Desktop now supports VM power on at the time of user connect. So a lot of those cost saving measures can be put in place through some not very complex through Azure automation scripting. You can also gain significant discounts by committing to reserved instances. And again, this is similar to any other VM deployment within Azure Public Cloud. And you can reduce cost up to 72% compared to pay as you go if you go for 1 year or 3 year terms on your Windows VMs. So that's a standard cost savings that you get with reserved instances. Now let's switch gears and see AVD in action with some demonstrations. So before we go there, let's review the lab environment that I will be using for these demonstrations. So again, it's the scaled down version of the reference architecture that I showed you earlier. We have Sure Active Directory, of course, AD Connect in place, one domain controller within Azure VNet. and there's another subnet for the session host, the desktops, the VMs, and a storage account or Azure files for storing user profiles. Again, uh, the service objects that we deploy in any AVD environment of are the host pool, the workspace, and the application groups. These are the three objects or Azure resources from where you do all the administration, the management of the environment. uh, I'll go over these in later sections. So uh, I plan to demonstrate all these, not all, but just touch on all the supported remote desktop clients that are available out there, how a user experience is like when they're accessing a remote desktop published through Azure Virtual Desktop. I will talk about the administration, how you can publish virtual desktop, how you can publish built-in applications, how you can add new session host, whether using a custom image or a marketplace image. Um, then I'll talk about MSIX App Attach, which is a new application packaging methodology that avoids image sprawl and how it does that. We'll talk about how we can set up auto shutdowns and auto scale, and we'll also touch on GPU support with Azure Virtual Desktop. So first of all, supported remote desktop clients. So there are several access options that are available. You can use it if you have an HTML5 browser. You can just go to this link, user Azure AD username and password, and you can start using the desktops. You could use a desktop client as well. There's an Android client, there's a Mac OS, iOS, Microsoft Store client, and at the same time, you can have those hardware thin clients as well from Dell, HP, Agile. A lot of different platforms are supported for your frontline workers, where you don't want to place a full scale. You don't need to position a full scale um, desktop or a laptop. You can just put these thin clients and it's all supported. So if I show you quickly how it looks like. So this is the URL that I showed you, rdweb.wvd. You go there. It'll ask you for your um, Azure AD credentials. So this is a test user that I have on Microsoft.com. So you log in, put in your password. And then this is the workspace of the user. So this user, test2, has applications published, 4 applications: Excel, Notepad, PowerPoint, Word, and a session desktop, which is the VDI for it. So the user clicks on his desktop, the system asks for the local resources. I shared them all. And then you have to put the credential one more time. And this is just the browser. So here is the desktop for that user. The user can access the apps, save everything here, like on the browser itself. And then at the same time, if the user wanted to open an app, he could click on this, allow, and in a similar way, that there's a tabbed. There will be multiple tabs open that will open for each application. You can open the apps. Here's the notepad on the browser itself. Not this one. So in a similar way, if the user was, I already have these users logged in. So this is a remote desktop application that's installed on my local machine. Similar experience, apps published here, session desktop, you double click, you open it. I have 2 users separately logged in. So let's say test 3, he would double click here, and I have 2 monitors open. It'll open like, it'll be a native experience. So I just cancel this one out. Going back to the slide deck. So next, let's talk about the service objects again. So host pool, this is one of the key service object that you deploy in your Azure subscription. It is nothing but a collection of session hosts. Here you can control overall experience, user experience, through configuration of RDP properties. You can add new session host if you want. If there are any diagnostics that you want to take a look at, all of that can be done on the host pool side. Let me show you how that looks like in terms of in the Azure subscription. So here is the host pool that I have deployed for this lab environment. Um, so this is like a dashboard to you. Here you see your total machines. I have just one session host deployed right now. There is none of the session hosts that are unavailable. If there is any session host that is shut down and is crashed or something, you'll see here. Total sessions that are already established, active sessions, disconnected sessions. So the number of applications that have already been published, the application groups. I'll touch on application groups in a little bit. Like I mentioned, you can control the RDP properties here, session behavior, bandwidth, device redirection. If you want to enable or disable something, how display settings, if you want to allow multiple display, a lot of things you can control from this Azure portal resource. So going back to the slide. So next is the application group. Application group is nothing but collection of application and user assignment. This is where you control all the applications and desktops that are published and to which users they are published. You group and control through application groups. So going back to the portal, if I go into manage section, there's application groups. I have two application groups defined here. One is your desktop application group. One is your application group dedicated to all the remote apps. So group type is desktop, remote app. Let me show you the application. So this is one of the application groups in manage sections. Again, what are all the applications that are published? I've published Excel, Notepad, PowerPoint. Again, these are the built-in applications into that session host. You could publish any application that is installed on that session host directly from here. It could be a custom line of business app as well. So highly flexible. You can control from here what applications, because there might be users which may not need entire desktop. They may just need access to an application. And for those users, it could be an experience while logging in similar to this. So when they log into this web portal or that application, they would see just that app. They double click it, they get access to the app, they do whatever their job is, and that's done. So and in the assignment side, you put in all the users that have access to this application set. All right. I just want to remind that we'll take questions at the end of the session. So we've already lost time due to some technical issues. So questions, you can put questions in the chat, and I'll take all the questions in the later part when I'm done with all the content that I want to share. So next is workspace. Workspace again is nothing but collection of application groups. It is mandatory to have a workspace in order to publish applications and desktops to users. These are only the three components from where you kind of administer or manage. This is all the administration complexity it is in Azure Virtual Desktop. There's no gateway. There's no RDS broker service that you need to worry about anything. This is the only space that where you control the entire deployment. So adding a host to the host pool is again easy. You go to the host pool, open your host pool, go to manage session host and add. Generate a key. This key is required to add any VM that is out there in your Azure subscription to this host pool. You add it. It'll ask you some of these questions, the VM location, availability, image type, whether you want to use a marketplace image or you want to use your own custom image, you can choose here. Virtual machine size that you want to choose. So this is this queue, number of VMs you want to deploy with this image, all of that you can control from here. Another important piece is the domain join credentials. So this is your Active Directory domain. You need to put in credentials so that when the VMs are deployed automatically in the background, they join your domain using these credentials. So they appear as any other machine within your network, within your environment. So this is all about administration that you may want needed. Again, publishing virtual desktops. I've kind of given you an idea. It is similar to this, like I showed you. You have applications published here. Similarly, if you want to publish a desktop, you need to have an application group with the group type as desktop, like this one I have. Here you would have in application, you would have the desktop. In assignments, you will put all the users. I have 2 users right now assigned. So that's simple. Again, if you want to publish any built-in applications, you go into the application group. This is the desktop. You go into the application group, go into applications, and you can add applications here. It could be a start menu application. It could be a file path as well within your session host. So where you have your application installed, your exe file will put here all the details, and it will get published like these applications that are there. So it's that simple in that sense, publishing applications directly. Next is MSIX app attach. Again, this is a packaging format, very interesting. It's an app layering technology that was purchased by Microsoft. It basically allows you to decouple your application from user data, the OS, and other applications. So it basically containerized your applications into VHD. So if you have to, let's say, patch an application, that don't have to go into your hundreds of session hosts and patch on all of them. You just update your application package, and it gets mounted as a VHD whenever a user tries to access that application. So very neat form, very neat and useful technology for delivering your applications dynamically. And in terms of advantages, it reduces the time it takes for a user to sign in. Infrastructure requirement and cost is also reduced because you don't need any other additional infrastructure to run MSIX app attach. It runs natively to manage that. Again, back to host pools. Here you can manage all your MSIX packages. You can publish from here, add uh, your images here. So yeah, next is auto scaling and auto shutdown. It can be easily implemented through Azure automation scripts. Start VM on Connect is now GA since July, which is a very useful feature to save cost and be able to shut down and power on VMs whenever required. So that is there. Next, let's talk about the GPU support. So Azure Virtual Desktop does support GPU-based VM SKUs. And NVV3 series, which is powered by Tesla M60 GPU, is supported. And each GPU comes with a grid license, and that allows you to share the same VM, single VM, to up to 25 concurrent users. So if your application load allows multiple users to share the same GPU, underlying GPU, you can just deploy one VM, and depending upon how many users can, how densely you can fill in that machine, you can have up to 25 users using the same machine at the same time. And second is the NVV4 SKU. This is also supported. It is powered by AMD Radeon Instinct MI25 GPUs. Again, this SKU comes with the partial GPU options. You can use, to start small, you could use 1/8 of the GPU, and you can keep on if your application requires more GPU, you can go and get up to the full GPU as well, so that you can control cost and you have that granularity in control on how much horsepower you need in terms of GPU. So that's a lot about the Azure Virtual Desktop. Now that we have understood the administration and some of the key features, I do want to touch upon the platform's ability to integrate with Citrix or VMware Horizon Cloud. So if you have your existing investments, or you have familiarity with Citrix or VMware Horizon, on-premises VDI solutions, they work very well in Azure as well. they bring in additional capabilities such as power management, image management, all the goodness that comes with these two platforms. And they have advanced protocol that adapt to network conditions as well. So there are some advanced features, some of the things that you have to kind of script in Azure Virtual Desktop. You could do that through the UIs and with a lot of simplified management through VMware or Citrix. Now with VMware Horizon and Citrix Clouds, all the infrastructure component that you would deploy in an on-premises environment, like your delivery controllers in Citrix and all of that stuff, is again abstracted and managed by the vendors themselves. So VMware Horizon Cloud, they manage all that infrastructure. You don't need to worry about it. You just need those licenses, and same with Citrix Cloud. They're very similar, very closely matched solution. But the point I want to highlight is they work very well with Azure Virtual Desktop. They have very well defined migration paths available, tools available to migrate your on-premises environment to Azure, and thereby you can leverage your existing investments and your knowledge with these platforms into the cloud. It'll offer a very familiar experience to the users as well as IT administrators. So that is there. And then if we talk about key benefits, you get in terms of you get an improved security posture because of built-in and integrated security features that are out there with Azure Virtual Desktop, that I touched on in terms of Azure AD. You also you may want to move this route because you may have hardware which is ending life, and you want to move from an capex model of buying hardware to a opex model of monthly billing from Azure. And you have more, when you shut down the VMs, you put those controls in place, you can make significant cost savings as well. And you may also want to utilize the extensive global footprint of Azure. So you may want to deploy some of those desktops in other parts of the globe. That's where you may want to move to Azure Virtual Desktop. And of course, with the Citrix Cloud and VMware Horizon Cloud, you may want to simplify the management, and that it brings because it's a more feature-rich overall VDI solutions with VMware Horizon and Citrix Cloud. So uh, I just wanted to touch on that. Next section is another one that I really want to focus about this new kid in the block called the Windows 365 Cloud PCs. So very interesting options recently announced by Microsoft, and um, I I'm in the field talking to a lot of customers, and customers have confusion between where Windows 365 Cloud PCs fit and why not go for it in AVD. So I'll try to some of those uh, uh, remove those shadows and put some more light on where Windows 365 is useful. But before I go there, let's quickly touch on what this solution is, Windows 365 Cloud PCs. So it's like AVD was more of a PaaS service. Windows 365 is a complete software as a service offering from Microsoft. It is built on top of Azure Virtual Desktop platform. It gives a personalized experience. So you can assign personal desktops to users. So this solution is not meant for sharing VMs with multiple users like you would do in a pooled AVD deployment. This is each user gets their own PC, like you would assign a physical laptop or a desktop to a user in the organization. So uh, another aspect of Windows 365 Cloud PC is that the cost is predictable and it is per user per month cost. The pricing is very much predictable, whereas in case of AVD, you might have noticed, you shut down the VMs, you can save some money here and there. It's hard to predict depending upon the user load, how much sharing is happening, how much user density is there. But in this case, this is a dedicated desktop to the user. As long as even if user shuts it down, powers it on, doesn't matter. You just pay per month on that. And the main theme is the ease of deployment and management. All of that happens through Microsoft Endpoint Manager portal. You don't need any media expertise to deploy Windows 365 PC. You can still deploy custom images like you would in AVD, and it is still again zero trust principles, but very secure. All the Microsoft security features are there, and it is built on keeping zero trust security principles in mind. Again, it comes in two editions. I'll come to that, but on the right you see different configuration it comes in. Start with one CPU, 2 GB. These are fixed queues, so you can get a PC with this queue, one CPU, 2 GB, 64 GB of this is the disk space. And similarly with 2V CPU, you have these options. 4V CPU, these options. They do not support any GPU based machines as of now, maybe down the line, but not right now. So comes in two editions, business and enterprise, very different from each other. Let's quickly see the difference between the two options. So business edition, you cannot domain join. It is does not have any virtual network support. So it is like any other PC on the internet. It does not connect to your private network. Enterprise PCs, it is hybrid Azure AD joint. So the PC, the VM in the background, the Windows 365 PC actually joins your domain. It is connected to your domain controllers like an AVD deployment, and it does have a NIC, VNIC inserted into the machine. But all of that is abstracted from you. Don't need to worry about any of those infrastructure components. You just sign the PC. I'll show you. I have a quick demo for this as well. In terms of licensing, there is just a fixed cost per month for the user. There's no additional cost. For enterprise, you do need Azure ADP1 and Microsoft Endpoint Manager license. If you're in M365, E3, E5, you're covered. This is for managing your patching and everything through Endpoint Manager. In terms of networking cost, with the business edition, there's a fixed amount of outbound that is allowed for 2 GB RAM version. It's 12 GB outbound that is allowed. On the other hand, with enterprise, since it is connected to VNet, your standard egress cost applies to that. Another thing to note is the seat limits. If you have business, Windows 365 business licenses are only allowed for up to 300 seats per tenant. So if you have more than 300 users, you'll have to go for the enterprise version. There's in terms of policy management, there's no policy that you can push on those cloud PCs. GPU and Intune MDM are supported within the enterprise flavor. Next, I will demonstrate Windows 365 in action. So let's start with the end user experience, how the end user experience is like with Windows 365. So the second, let me bring this up here. So let's see. So user goes to this website, windows365.microsoft.com, and enters the username, password, standard Azure AD login, password entered. This is the screen that the user sees. This is the PC that has been assigned to this user. He can double click, open in browser. You can restart, you can rename, troubleshoot, whatever. From here, again, similar experience to AVD. Again, you have, it asks you what resources you want to locate. And then again, password like I did for the AVD. And there you are. You get access to the desktop itself. So this is very similar to what you saw with the AVD user experience. Next, I want to showcase the how you can establish that on-premises network connection. Again, this is for enterprise edition only. So this is how it looks like. Let's quickly. So yeah, you will log into your Endpoint Manager Admin Center. From there, you will go into devices, and then in devices, and then Windows 365. Here you can go to the on-premises network connection. Right now, I don't have any. I'll click create connection. You would enter the name of that connection, any name. You select a subscription, select a resource group you want to deploy, the virtual network where you want that the cloud PCs to connect to, the subnet, of course, and then AD domain details. This information will be used to join the cloud PCs to your Active Directory, to your domain controllers. essentially put the domain admin that has the rights to add a PC, add a machine to the domain. You connect, you create it, and that's it. So again, all of that, you don't need to get into your Azure subscription. Everything is being managed through Endpoint Manager console. So that's the beauty of this solution, that you don't have to worry about any of those complexities. Next, let's see how a provisioning policy works and how you can establish those uh, your custom images within the Windows 365 world. So you're in your endpoint manager console. You go into Windows 365, go into provisioning policies. I don't have any. I create a provisioning policy. I can enter a provisioning policy name, the location of the network connection. This is the connection that I created in the previous step. Image, you can select a gallery image, or you can select a custom image as well if you have one. I'm selecting Windows 10 Enterprise Gallery image. And here you set up the assignments, the users that would be assigned this desktop. So from your Azure AD, you can select all the users. I have a group here, finance users. I assign this desktop to them, and that's it. So all of that, the overall management is highly simplified with Windows 365. That is the theme. So now we've looked at multiple VDA options within Microsoft Azure. Now I think it's time that we distinguish and see which option is the right one for your environment, and that is very clearly laid out and can be understood with this side-by-side comparison that I would show you. So Windows 365, the theme is that it is optimized for simplicity. So we want to keep it as simple as possible, less administration, less management. Let's remove that complexity out of VDI as much as possible. So it's and again, it is a personalized Windows 365 Cloud PC. It is a personalized. There's no pool desktop concept. So one user, one desktop. One user may have multiple desktops, but you cannot assign same desktop to multiple users. So it is a dedicated PC for a user, and that's why it's a per user licensing on this one. And again, it is very simple. Just assign the license, set it up in the endpoint manager, and you're all done. The pricing is also very predictable. Only bill you will get is monthly for that user. Whether he uses the PC for 20 hours a week, 40 hours a week, or 24/7, doesn't matter. Your bill is going to be the same. It is easily scalable. If you want to scale up, let's say the user is complaining the performance is not adequate, you can just go into your endpoint I've not shown you that in the licensing, you change the license for that user to a higher SKU, and you're all done. You don't need any VDA experience or any understanding of RDS components here, because all of that is now abstracted from the administrator. When it comes to Azure Virtual Desktop, it is optimized for flexibility and control. So it gives you maximum control with minimum complexity. So RDS is, like I mentioned before, RDS infrastructure components, all Microsoft's responsibility. You don't need to worry about it. But you still have flexibility and control to optimize the environment, to publish applications. You cannot publish applications with Windows 365. You can still publish applications for your frontline workers. You can just dedicate the whole desktop to a user, or maybe just share the underlying virtual machine with multiple users. All of that you can control still. It does support multi-session Windows VMs, whereas Windows 365, there's no concept of multi-sessions. The Azure Virtual Desktop also meets all data residency and geo requirements. You can control where your data is kept, in which location, with geolocation. So if you have any geo residency compliance requirements, you can meet with Azure Virtual Desktop. It of course supports app streaming, like I demonstrated. It does support GPU and HPC workloads as well. You can choose the VM SKU. If the VM SKU is available in the location where you're deploying Azure Virtual Desktop, you can just use it like any other VM. And of course, you can scale compute and storage as and when you required, and you can control cost by that, and shut down VMs, all that flexibility. Or if you want to integrate it with Citrix or VMware, you can still do that. So why would you go for a Citrix if you have an existing investment, or your team is more skilled with Citrix or VMware VDI? You want to continue with that. You don't want to disturb the user experience. You can actually, there are migration tools available. You can just move from your aging on-premises hardware, move all your Citrix or VMware infrastructure, migrate it very cleanly, neatly into Azure, and move to a OpEx model if you want. And the another reason why you would use a Citrix or a VMware VDI is that you want to span your virtual desktop VDI environment architecture across multiple public cloud platforms. You may want to manage VMs in, let's say, AWS, Azure, and GCP, and you want to do all of that through a single control plane, single plane of glass. In that case, you would use a Citrix or a VMware solution on top of VDI, on top of your Azure Virtual Desktop. So these are very closely knit solutions, but they satisfy different requirements, and gives you a lot of flexibility. And depending upon what your goals are, whether it's for simplifying the administration, the management, or whether it is to have the flexibility and control, or if you have your on-premise Citrix VMware environment and you want to have a VDI environment that spans across the cloud, then you would go for integration with Citrix Citrix and VMware. So a lot of flexibility, a lot of options when it comes to virtual desktops in Azure. Uh, with that, I think we are also on top of the hour. I have covered. We started a little late, so will if you can stay on for next few minutes, I would be taking questions, and uh, after that we'll round it up. So Ego, any questions on chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask questions as well.
Yes, we have a couple of questions. It's been pretty active in the chat. The first one is, what is the Windows E3 license? The client wants to understand, is this the same as Office E3 license?
So when this is not a Windows E3, this is a Microsoft E3 license. So it is a suite, it is a bundle of multiple licenses that covers Office 365 licenses as well, and Endpoint Manager. There's a whole chart of it. I will not go into the details, but the requirement for Azure Virtual Desktop is M365 E3. If I can go back to the license slide, you see here, so you need to have either M365 E3, E5, A3, A5 for, or F3 frontline workers, business premium if you have, and Windows E3, E5, this is for your Windows 10 licenses. So to license your Windows 10 or Windows 11 images, that is where Windows E3, E5 fits in.
Great, thanks, Justine. The next one we have, what is the average amount of effort to publish in a specific app, like you did for Notepad and Excel?
So it's really simple. It's just that what I demonstrated. You click there, and if I can quickly show you, so you go into the application group and applications. Let's say it's a built-in application from Microsoft. It is really simple. Go into add, and if it's in start menu, it'll show you all the applications that are installed out there. You can publish any of those Windows Microsoft application just like that, and save it. And if you have assignment to the users, in a few minutes, it'll show up on their homepage and they can access those applications. It is that simple.
Perfect. Then we have a client that did not have access to the link. He wants to know the link we use to connect with the AVD profile.
Yeah,
He says
so
it was not set up for his user.
So the general link to any AVD desktop. Is that the question?
Yes, I believe it's referring to the AVD link we used for the demo.
Okay. Oh, okay. So this is the rdweb.wed.microsoft.com web client link. This is the link that you can use. I will put that in chat.
Okay, moving on to the next question. Can a user using AVD handle multiple displays? The client is running local RDS and has trouble with users wanting multiple monitors. So can can AVD handle multiple displays? That's the question.
It certainly does, and I did not demonstrate it just because I have multiple displays, and it would have caused a little bit of confusion in sharing screens. But it does support that, and it works very well. This is our lab environment, and you can control that in your host pool, and then you go into RDP properties and display settings. Here you can control whether you want to enable multiple display or you don't want to enable it. You can control that. So it works perfectly. I know traditionally in on-premises RDS deployments there were issues, but in with Azure Virtual Desktop it's all very seamless, and again very few moving parts, just a few configurations here. You don't need to fine tune any of this. All of this is kind of pre-tuned for you.
The client wants to understand if there will be considerable lag, when using audio and video. How does AVD handle this?
So for AVD is optimized for Teams. First of all, if you're using Teams, it is now optimized for Teams calls. When it comes to audio and video, in this slide I touched on the multimedia redirection. It is in public preview, but it'll since August, so I'm expecting it soon. It'll be GA. So MMR, what it does is that it uses the underlying local machine to render the video instead of rendering the video in a VM in Azure cloud and then kind of just giving you that RDP session, which will not be a very good experience. Once MMR is in public is in GA, and
We have a bit of echo.
yeah, if you're not speaking, please go on mute. So okay, it's good now. So once MMR is in GA, the video rendering would happen on the local machine, and it'll be a seamless experience watching any kind of video through the Azure Virtual Desktop. Even right now, it is in public preview. You can enable it. It is you won't get, since it's a public preview, you won't get support on it if it doesn't work. But uh, once it's in GA, then it's a feature. You would have no lags at all because you'll be using the underlying local machine.
Next question, how are Windows updates handled in AVD? Is it best practice to redeploy the host every patch cycle?
So again, AVD, I've not included that, but it is with Windows 10, it is integrated very well with Endpoint Manager. You can control all your patching and device management through Endpoint Manager, and you can automatically, there's a drain mode that you can set up for any reboots. It can automatically drain users. So as they log off, they'll get another already patched session host in the background. Like you would in a Citrix environment, if you're familiar with that. So that is all supported, and patching is controlled by Endpoint Manager.
Thanks, Jasdeep. And the final question, for the MSIX app attached packages, are there other packaging applications that can be used for more complex applications?
If you're using the AVD vanilla flavor without any other VDI solution on top of like Citrix or Horizon, then there's an MSIX app attach. Or if you don't want to layer the apps, you can use the standard application publishing, that is through the installed session host installed applications. If you want to use more complex app layering, then I would suggest go for Citrix Cloud or Citrix infrastructure on top of AVD, or VMware Horizon infrastructure on top of AVD.
Perfect. I think we've run through all the questions, but if there are any more questions, please feel free to send us an email and we will address them following this call. Thanks, Jesse.
All right. Thank you everyone for joining us today. It was a great pleasure. being part of this webinar. We'll be happy to take on any questions after words as well. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.